He's going for a third term, and he's got a lot of different methods as to how he could run a third time. He's not joking. He literally said he's not joking. I'm going to give you the exact quotes. Okay, so it's an amazing story, and Steve Bannon had suggested that Trump might run for a third term. Now Trump is confirming it. So we'll break down. Is he trolling? Ha ha ha! It's so funny when the president's a child and instead of actually doing his job, likes to troll people like little kids online. That's one possibility. And the other is that he absolutely means it. That's the camp I'm in, and I'll prove my case for you guys. And then there's the possibility that some folks think he does mean it, and that it's awesome. Who cares about the Constitution? Who cares about freedom? Who cares about America? Who cares about anything we said? Yeah, so dictator for life, woohoo! So that is some in the camp. But how do they break down between the left, the center, the right? What are the different camps people are in, and how are they reacting to this? So first of all, it was with Kristen Welker of NBC News, and in a phone interview that they did, she asked him about Steve Bannon and how Steve Bannon is saying that he should run for a third term, and Steve Bannon is very, very serious. He says he's 100% not kidding, not trolling, etc. He said, quote, this was back in March 18th, so just a little while ago. We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see what the definition of term limit is. And I'm sure that they'll see what the definition of the Constitution is, what the definition of democracy is, what the definition of authoritarian is. We'll get into all those definitions if Steve Bannon has his way. So Welker asked Trump about it, and Trump says, a lot of people would like me to do that. But I mean, I'll just do it in normal voice, the Trump voice. But I mean, basically, I tell them we have a long way to go. It's very early in the administration. No, we don't have a long way to go. This has nothing to do with how early or late it is in the administration. The Constitution says you can only run for president twice, period. You can't go longer than 10 years, can't run more than twice in terms of winning and serving twice. It's not unclear. There's absolutely nothing unclear about it. So what do you mean we'll see? That's like saying, hey, would you like to be a dictator? Well, it's early on in the administration, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I don't want to see how that goes. And if you're on the left, you hate it. Easy, right? If you're an independent, the great overwhelming majority of you hate it, even if you voted for Trump, right? Why did independents vote for Trump? The border, and they want to get immigration under control. Inflation, of course, they want to get inflation under control. And then a huge part of it is they felt that the Democratic leadership had become the establishment, and they were supporting the status quo, and they needed change in their lives. Their lives were not going as hunky-dory as the people on television kept claiming, right? So those are the main reasons that independents voted for Trump, and a lot of the right wing voted for Trump. Some of the right wing are on the extreme, and some of the left wing are on the extreme, and some of the extreme on the right wing are very, very scary folks. And they really don't believe in democracy, and they really just believe in raw power, and they have all these nonsense talk about how maybe a monarchy is the way to go. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. I literally interviewed the guy that J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, and others quote. And yeah, he says, we're making the case, excuse me, guys, for a monarchy. Okay, fantastic. What happens if the monarch, otherwise known as a dictator, then decides, Yarwin, who's the so-called intellectual behind this, that he doesn't like you? I asked him that question, and he wants to kill you. What would stop him? Well, I mean, he probably wouldn't do that. Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, anyway, so that's the radical right, and they exist. But the overwhelming majority of the people who voted for Trump didn't vote for him because they wanted him to be a dictator and they wanted fascism, etc. Some did, but very like that. So my point is, the independents are not going to like it. They're not going to like. You can poll them to. If you don't believe me, if you're on the left or the right, and there's a weird confluence between the left and the right radicals who are like, no, I don't ever. I believe every Trump voter is super extreme. They radical right says and radical left says, but the polling doesn't indicate that. But they don't want to see the polling. They don't want to see anything. They don't want to say that, hey, maybe it was about inflation and immigration. They just want to say, no, it's because they're all fascist Nazis. We're about to find out. I mean, this is a great way of finding out. And so I have some indications, which I'll share with you in a second. By the way, of course, we're going to break this down as we break down all the important issues on our live show Monday through Friday. When is it? 6 o'clock Eastern. That's right. We go 6 to 8 o'clock Eastern. Then we have a bonus episode for the members. And by the way, you can show it up for membership by hitting the join button below. You could ring the bell, get more notifications about when we go live like this, right? So Okay, so in terms of the where people lie, we'll get to that in 1 second. But I got to read you all the quotes first. Okay, so here is Trump. Okay, he says we got a long way to go. We'll see if I want to be dictator later. And again, I read you the exact quote. Dictator is my interpretation because that's what it would be when you say I don't care what the Constitution says. I'm going to run forever and ever and ever. I don't believe in the Constitution. I'm going to rip it up, and I'd like to stay in power for the rest of my life. Well, that's authoritarian. That's dictator. That's what it means. That's the definition of it. Whether you're in the Yarvin camp and rooting for it, Peter Thiel, etc., yeah, woo, or you hate it, which is the great majority of Americans. So, but let's continue. So then Welker says, have you been presented with any potential plans that would allow you to serve a third term? Correct answer to that for any rational human being who's president of the United States and loves this country is no. I haven't been presented with plans for running for a third term that is deeply unconstitutional and authoritarian. No, we're not cooking those up. Easy answer, easiest answer in the whole wide world, right? Instead, Trump says there are plans. Quote, there are plans. There are not plans. There are methods which you could do it, as you know. No, I don't know. I don't know what method you're going to use to shred the Constitution. Why did I vote against Trump? For anybody who watches the Young Turks, it knows this. If you haven't watched the Young Turks and you've been hearing what we're saying, then you probably heard a giant number of lies that don't resemble anything we actually say. But the number one reason I was against Trump, and I debated half a dozen, actually more, about 10 right-wingers on this, and the point I made every time was he didn't want to leave office the last time. It wasn't unclear. He lost the election. He didn't want to leave office. And afterwards, he said we should terminate the Constitution. That guy was never, ever, ever going to listen to the Constitution, doesn't care about democracy. He's praised dictators over and over again. If you're on the right, you don't believe it because you don't want to see it. It makes you emotionally uncomfortable. It hurts your identity. You feel like proud to be MAGA or a Trump supporter, etc. And when you hear Trump himself saying it, you make excuses. He's trolling. He doesn't mean it. He's doing this. He's got a different strategy. No, he means it. He said it so many times. And you're going to see here, he's going to double down and double down and double down. So he says, yeah, there are methods in which we could ignore the Constitution, and I could run America forever. I could run for a third term, and if you could run for a third term, you can certainly run for a fourth and fifth term, etc. And then, by the way, if we trash the Constitution, there are no laws left, then you don't even have to run. And by the way, that is what has happened in authoritarian governments. Russia is a great example of how Putin slowly death walked democracy. Now Erdogan's doing it in Turkey. And Viktor Orban is halfway through in Hungary. And that's why they keep talking about Viktor Orban. Oh, Viktor Orban, the way he slowly crushed democracy to death and brought more authority. Who would brag about Viktor Orban and Vladimir Putin? If you want to say, hey, listen, we're spending too much money in Ukraine. I want to bring it back home. I want to deliver for the average American. That's a debate. It's a perfectly good point to make. It's a good debate to have. How do we apportion those things? But if you say, I love Vladimir Putin, who keeps invading other countries, poisoning his political opponents, putting them in a Siberian or Arctic prison and then murdering anyone who dissents from his administration. No, I don't like Vladimir Putin. And if you're a decent American, you would hate that, not because of, oh, we're supposed to hate Russia, right? No, because that's not democracy. That's not our form of government. That's the opposite of our form of government. You're not supposed to cheer for those guys. You don't have to, it's not about Trump. It's not about Russia. God, there's so many things that the media has put into people's heads that makes no sense. Listen to what the brother's actually saying. He's saying, yeah, there are methods for ignoring the Constitution and for me to run for a third term. But again, he's not done yet. So then Welker throws out the theory that some of the right wing have been talking about. Well, I mean, look, what if J.D. Vance runs and then Trump is his vice president? What are you doing? Okay. All right, then what if somebody else runs, but Barack Obama is his vice president, and on day one they do a switcheroo and go, we were just kidding. We just shredded the Constitution with this, what we think is a clever loophole. It's not a clever loophole to keep you as our authoritarian leader forever. Not at all clever. Anyway, so again, you should say to that easy answer, no, we're not going to do that. I'm focused on delivering for the American people right now. Here's the cuts we're going to make if you believe in that. Yeah, and here's how we're going to balance the budget and all the other things that he could brag about, right? Nope. Here's his answer. Well, that's one scenario, but there are others too. There are others. So he's like, yeah, we will do that trick. We're considering doing that trick where we're pretending that J.D. Vance runs. I run as his VP, And then when we win, I go back to being president. Just flat out admits that they're considering that. And by the way, what part of this is joking? He's like telling you specific plans on how they're trying to subvert the Constitution. No joke at all. If it doesn't matter because he's about to address it. But he says, but hey, that dirty trick to destroy the Constitution is not the only dirty trick we have. We're considering others too. So she says, sir, I'm hearing you don't sound like you're joking. I've heard you joke about this a number of times. Trump jumps in and goes, no, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. But I'm not. It is far too early to think about it. She then says, would you want to serve a third term, sir? Trump says, well, I like working. Okay. And by the way, so here comes excuses. Some on the right wing will say, well, he said before that he wouldn't run, and that this was his last rally while running for president. He told Cheryl Atkinson, I think that'll be it. I don't see that at all in terms of running. This was earlier. This was last September, right? But that was before the election. Yeah, before the election, he's like, oh, no, I'm authoritarian. What the Democrats are saying about how I want to stay in power forever and I'll never leave. Oh, that's crazy. No, I'm not going to do that. He wins. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm totally thinking of doing that. I have 1, 2, 3 different plans on how to stay in power forever, just like the Democrats told you. Just like Cenk told you and warned you about Trump. Because I'm not in the camp of, oh, my God, he has upset the apple cart. He has overturned the establishment apple cart. He is so bad. I'm not in that camp, okay? I can't stand the establishment. And I don't agree with the great majority of his policies, but I think there are better ways to attack the establishment and actually help the average American. But I'm not in the, oh, golly gee, I hate everything Trump does, and I didn't even look at what it is yet. I'm not in that camp, legendarily not in that camp. I get attacked by the left all the time. No, you should call everything he does terrible. You should call all of his voters Nazis. No, I'm not in that camp. But when somebody says to you, yeah, I'm thinking of running for a third term, we've actually cooked up 2 to 3 different plans on how I'm going to absolutely destroy the Constitution and our democracy so I could run for a third term and be dictator for life. Yeah, then I'm concerned. I'm concerned. And if you're right wing, and another excuse you have is, technically, he didn't say dictator for life. You added that part. Yeah, I read you the exact quotes, right? But a guy who never wants to leave, even though the Constitution says you only get 2 terms, he showed it last time. He's showing it again this time. Means I would like to be dictator for life. If you say, no, you're over hyper. Okay, all right. Then I'm never going to convince you anyway. Like Trump could be in his 8th term, God help us all. And they somehow figured out how to keep him alive. And he's like breathing through a tube. And he's like, I'm still going to run. Right. And that would be very Trumpian. And yes, some portion of the right would continue to make excuses. No, well, you see, but like a dictator is like a monarch, and a monarch's kind of friendly. Aren't the British really nice with their pomp and circumstance and stuff? And we're just having fun. And I mean, look, you don't have any rights anymore. And if anybody criticizes Donald Trump or Elon Musk or Tesla or their shareholders, we arrest them and round them up. And if they also criticize Israel or any other donor to Donald Trump, we round them up and we put them in a secret jail cell in either Louisiana or El Salvador. But we're good. Those guys you're never going to reach. Don't bother trying to reach those guys. You're trying to reach the middle. You're trying to reach some populists on the right. And again, my friends on the left say there are no populists on the right. They're all a cult. Okay, so let's get to that. So number one, this is just a small indicator, but you could check it any way you like. The most important thing is have an open mind. If you have an open mind and you're actually looking at what they're saying, you'll be able to tell. If you have a closed mind, you'll just reinterpret everything like the radical right does it. I'd like a third term and I give a goddamn about the Constitution. He means he loves democracy and the Constitution. No, he doesn't. You're just reinterpreting it in a maddening way, right? Now, tons of MAGA are going, no, I'm not going to be in favor of him running for a third term. And some on the left look at that and go, see, they say they're in favor of a third term. No, they just said the opposite. No, by definition, fascist. Okay, all right, so what do they actually say? So you go on social media. I put out a post on, at Cenk Uygur on X. And there's the guys who go, yeah, of course, it's your libtard's fault, and we're going to take over, and we should run forever, and right. And then he gets some positives, and a bunch of people agree with him. So it's not like that doesn't exist; it does. And then another guy puts up a post going, "I'm MAGA," and I don't want that at all. That would suck. Another guy puts up a post saying, "Wait, that would prove the Democrats right." Exactly. Okay. Somebody else says, hey, Jane, didn't you say he would do this? Yes. That's why. This is, look, one more thing on the core of the issue, right? Which is that when I talk to, this is my favorite thing. If you've heard this before, sorry, but it's so good. So Dan Holloway from Drinking Bros podcast, right wing populist, said, look, before the election when I was debating him, he said, look, we know he's a bull in a china shop, but we hate the china shop so much we want to send him in. And I'm like, brother, I hate the establishment too, but there's things like the U.S. Constitution in that china shop, and democracy in that china shop, and I would argue America in that china shop, and I don't want him breaking those things. And so that was the source of our disagreement. He thought, no, he won't break the Constitution or democracy, etc. But here he is, right? So, but at least they didn't want that. Like, they knew they were taking a bit of a risk, and they hate the establishment, and they wanted to break that stuff, but they didn't necessarily want to break the Constitution. And I had talked to another guy, Jesse, and Jesse on Fire, and he was like, "Oh, I hadn't seen that terminate the Constitution language, right?" And here he is again. Here he is again. Okay. And by the way, Trump doesn't equal his voters. His voters got information through a lot of different ways. Some got it from Steve Bannon and love this kind of talk. Some got it from Fox News and just want corporate tax cuts. Some are actually believe he's anti-war and they voted based on anti-war. There's just and a lot of them came from the brosphere. And the brosphere largely voted for Trump, but they're not in the camp of like, oh yeah, take away my rights. No. Take away freedom of speech. No. Run for a third term. No. Okay. So again, my friends on the left say no way. None of them are saying no. When I see Dave Portnoy on camera saying, for example, Signalgate was so stupid and there should be consequences, and the Trump administration is definitely lying. And Tommy Lahren says the same thing. Piers Morgan says the same thing. Piers is in a different category. But still, all these guys pointing out, they're like, I don't see it, I don't see it, I don't see it. Well, I see it. You can all see it if you go online. Does that mean that all of the right-wingers in rebellion are super mad at Trump and tomorrow they're going to demand that he take this back? No, guys. There's no magic. It doesn't happen overnight. They're getting information from a lot of different sources, and they're taking it in, and it takes a long time to process that. So my guess is, and I'll talk a lot about this on the show, Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern is when we're live, over the next 2 years, which is that Trump is going to get more and more unpopular. A year and a half from now, the jury's going to come in on him, which is, oh, everything that people said about Trump was right. He just wanted the money and the power. He did like endless corruption as they're funneling tens of millions of dollars into his crypto scams as we speak. We talked about it on Friday's show. We could prove it over and over. A white-collar criminal, $1.8 million to Trump's campaign. He not only doesn't have to go to prison, doesn't have to pay restitution for his victims. Another guy, $71 million into Trump's crypto scams, goes straight into Trump's pockets. He's the SEC investigation into his fraud is dropped. Aussie Media, Carlos Watson. I don't know what he did for Trump. I don't know if anybody involved did anything for Trump. I don't know that. But I do know randomly another guy who was about to go to prison, pay restitution, $96 million in restitution to his victims, out of jail free card. Why is he releasing all of these guys who have committed fraud, financial fraud? Well, partly because they're paying him, okay, and partly because he's like, financial fraud, that's my brother in arms. That's what I've been doing my whole life. Okay, right wing doesn't see it yet, but they're starting to see it. And in fact, when I tweeted about those, again, punja right wingers go, no way, he's pure as a driven snow. And some right wingers going, yeah, that's like 3, 4, 6 cases in a row of white collar criminals that were about to pay restitution to their victims and go to prison, and now they're not. Wait, how is this MAGA? How is this fighting against the establishment? How is this populist? And another thing I keep asking those guys, where's the corporate subsidies they've cut? If these guys are all about waste, fraud, and abuse, there's like $30 billion in oil subsidies. There's subsidies up the gazoo. Elon has gotten subsidies for his businesses. We're doing a website, where'sourcut.com. Because if the American people are going to put $5 billion into Tesla or any other business that Elon has, we should, like any investor, get a cut. We should get a percentage of Tesla. We should get some Tesla stock. That would at least be fair. I'm financing you. Any person who finances you would normally get shares. Why doesn't the average taxpayer get shares? Why do we have to constantly dish out to these corporations, give them billions and billions and billions of dollars all the time, and we get nothing back? Okay, so if you actually wanted to cut, those are the things you would cut, but they haven't cut any of that. They said they were going to cut defense. They haven't cut it. They're going to add $100 billion. They're going to cut from you. So these are the things that I've been talking about. And does it resonate? Not magically overnight, but yes, absolutely. So the guy who said this is not what MAGA is about, we're not up for a third term, and we're not going to allow this. Hundreds of likes from other MAGA guys. You could say I'm overinterpreting. You could look at the evidence differently. You could look at that tweet. You look at other tweets. You could look at other social media and come to your own conclusions. Are there people who are now just going to be sycophants and right-wing media for Trump? Of course. I saw Betty Johnson on with Anna on Piers Morgan at the end of last week. He's not moving on a single issue, right? Nope. Trump's the greatest. Everything we do is no big deal. But what about this? What about this? What about Biden? What about Hillary? But they're going to get exhausted saying that for 2 years straight. And eventually people are going to say, I don't give a goddamn about Biden and Hillary. They're not president right now. You're president. Trump is president. So you better actually do something other than a giant $4.5 trillion tax cut for the corporations and for the rich, which is what he's planning. And he is going to do that cut. And a year and a half from now, people are going to look at it, including, yes, the independents that voted for Trump, and yes, some portion of the right-wing populists, and they're going to go, it turns out he was just another con man. So we went establishment Democrats, they didn't help at all. Establishment Republicans didn't help at all. We went Trump because he was pretending to be a populist. And what did he do? He did the same thing as those guys. Giant tax cuts for his donors, giant favors and subsidies for his donors, and by the way, massively increasing the debt. He increased it by over $8 trillion last time. No one's added to, did you know this? And you could look it up. You could ask Grok about it. No one has added to the debt more than Donald Trump. And he did it in just 4 years. And he's going to do it again. All this semantics and optics of cutting is nonsense. It's all just a ploy to say, don't worry about the $4.5 trillion in tax cuts that's going into my pocket and Elon's pocket and all of our donors' pockets. And that's my way of paying them back and getting rich myself. Don't worry about that. Oh, we cut malaria treatment in Africa. We cut non-existent condoms in Gaza. We got a gold card. We got tariffs. So we'll magically make up that money. No, they won't. They'll add to the deficit. They'll add to the debt. They won't do anything. At the end of the day, the jury comes in, guys. Already, by the way, on the economic numbers, Trump's polling is hurt, dog. Don't ask him if he's all right. And that used to be his strength. Why is it hurt? Because, guys, we have eyes and ears. Joe Biden wasn't young and dynamic. He was old as fuck, okay? And he had some sort of dementia. His brain wasn't working. He said we defeated Medicare, and he was proud of it. He shook hands with invisible people. And the Democrats thought that they could do enough propaganda to trick people into voting for him, but they couldn't. That wall, they ran into a brick wall of reality. And the Trump people, they could say, oh, no, tax cuts for the rich are great. Corporations should rule us all. And that's the most populist thing you could do is corporate subsidies. And we should only cut from the average American and not from any of the rich or the powerful. And we should let Miriam Adelson run foreign policy. And we should take people off the street for speaking against Israel and have masked guys grab him and put him in a van because Miriam Adelson ordered their detention and deportation. And she's one of Donald Trump's donors. Yeah, some of you will do that. But a lot of people will actually see the reality. My life didn't get better. Prices are still higher. Prices are still higher. In fact, they're getting higher and higher. The economy's getting worse. He's going to run into that brick wall. Let's give him populist left. That's the only thing that the country hasn't tried. It's the Bernie wing. It's the wing that actually cares about you. It's the one that says, fight for someone you don't know. And by the way, if you're a progressive and you believe the radical left, that we should just call every Trump voter a racist, fascist, and we should hate them. How does that fit with fight for someone you don't know? We're not looking for not universal health care, only health care for us and no health care for MAGA. We're looking for universal health care. That's the left. We're not looking for higher wages for us, but not for them. We're looking for higher wages for everyone. That's the true left, the populist left, the popular left. That's the option America hasn't tried, and they're ready to try. Because at the end of the day, when this clown of all clowns tries his stupid trial balloons on running for a third term and being our authoritarian leader forever, and he gives more and more away to his buddies and to his donors, it's not going to work. He's going to get caught, especially because in the old days, all they had was Fox News. It was nothing but wall-to-wall propaganda. When I talked to right-wingers, it was like I was talking to Sean Hannity. Tax cuts for the rich are great. they eventually trickle all over us 40 years later, and we're like, oh, I am showering in your trickle. Oh, I love it. Please give more to the rich, right? That was every right winger. I'm sorry, right wingers, but it was, okay? Now they have media from all over the place. The bros don't agree. Rogan doesn't agree. Howard Schultz doesn't agree. All these different places, man. And Bannon and Elon Musk don't agree. So in that, they're going to get caught. They're going to get caught. And him saying stupid things like he'd like to run for a third term, and him saying, I'm definitely not joking. I'm definitely trying to stay in power and pass what the Constitution says I could do. That's going to catch up with him. It doesn't catch up overnight, and it doesn't catch up to 100% of his voters. But already people are like, whoa, what are you doing? Some folks are saying that. Soon that will be a larger and larger group of folks as he does dumber and dumber things, because that's who he is. He loves power. He loves wealth. He loves himself. He's not looking out for you guys. He's looking out for himself. Some people will find that out later than others. Some people already know that exceedingly. But for the folks who don't know it, let's be welcoming and say, hey, brothers and sisters, we're trying to fight for you. This brother ain't it. I know why you voted against Trump, because you hate the establishment. Good news, I hate the establishment. But this is not the way to fight them. The way to fight them is by fighting for you. All right, Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. If you like what we're saying, hit the join button below. Oh, I was going to read members. I didn't. Sorry, guys. But I love your comments. I appreciate you guys. And then if you're already a subscriber, or if you just want to subscribe for free, just hit the subscribe button and then ring the bell if you want to keep up and not miss these kind of live updates. All right, thanks for spending a part of your weekend with me, guys. I'll see you Monday at 6 o'clock.